In addition to these tools, you also have a whole other set of tools, which I like quite a bit, and these are called the Pathfinder Tools. You have them up here. Personally, I like the Pathfinder window better. So what this essentially does is the Pathfinder lets you modify the paths between two different shapes. So for example, if I wanted these two shapes to be combined into one shape, I could click on both together and I could tell it to unite. And now they are one shape with one path and one fill. However, if I liked sort of this cutout that I have this weird shape from these tools over here, and I wanted this to be modified by that edge, I could click on both and I could tell it to subtract the fronts, like so. And now what was there is gone on that shape. And so that's what some of these do. Or intersect, for example, where it takes just where the two overlap, exclude where it subtracts in between, and they become one shape, and I can pull them apart by double clicking, but they're grouped together. Or divide, where they are now three different shapes, and you can see that line there. They are currently grouped, but if I double click, I can pull out parts from one another, and now you can see the three different parts. And then I can just double click on nothing to get out of that shape, and once again you can see they're grouped. So there's quite a few things here that you can play with and try out and see what they do. Alright, so the last thing I want to show you regarding shapes for a while, is how to repeat a transformation. So once again, let's just start with a basic square. And it could have a solid color outline, or no outline, or it could have a gradient for the outline. None of that really matters. Whatever you choose is fine. And I've already shown you that you can duplicate this by holding Option and dragging. Now this duplication is actually considered a transformation. And what that allows us to do is, let's say that we want a bunch of these, right? What we could do instead is Option, drag out the first one, and then just do Command D again and again to get as many as we want. And from there, if we wanted, let's say we needed a whole bunch of them on the vertical and the horizontal, we could hold Option, drag down. Now I've got a bunch more, and then Command D, and now we've got a whole bunch of those. That is probably way more than I need, but you get the idea. That can quickly create a whole lot, save you a lot of time, and everything is right where you want it to be. Perfect, mathematical, no error, no variation. Great way of producing pattern. Now we can take the same idea and do other things with it as well. So for example, let's say that we went up here to Object and we did Transform, and we did Rotate, right? And let's rotate it just a little bit. Press OK. Now if we do Command D, it rotates it around. Now that's not very useful for right now, because why didn't I just do that in the start? Why is it really useful just to do these little bitty increments? It's really not. And as you can see there, I don't even have to go up here to transform. I could actually even just do it right here, because this is considered a transformation. It's just a shortcut to it. And so Command D will repeat that as well. Or I can make it bigger, and Command D and it will make it bigger. And so you get the idea. So let's go back to our start. Just a rectangle. I just did Command V, and I had this copied from the start. You can see that I don't have anything special here, so let's increase my stroke here and give it sort of an unusual shape, just so you can see a little bit easier how this behaves. Now, that wasn't that impressive right now, but this can be pretty impressive, because what we can also do is, instead of using these transform tools or using the little shortcuts around the box itself, we also have up here under Effects, Distort and Transform, and this is where it can be actually pretty cool, because what we can do with this option, we've got a lot of the same stuff, and so let's turn on preview so you can see what I'm doing. So right now this may not seem that impressive, right? However, we can instead tell it to make copies. and that will instead keep the original and then make additional copies, however many I choose, which can give you a pretty cool effect pretty quickly. Not only that, but I can also do stuff like rotate, so it starts to rotate my copies as well, and that can give me a very cool effect very, very quickly. Now this is starting to look kind of along the lines of an optical illusion, which isn't necessarily bad, but that might not be what you're going for. Let's go ahead and drop this down and maybe go the other way instead. Now what's on top is my original, and I could instead, if I wanted to, actually change the position of it as well, and we could even create this little spiral by manipulating these options. I'm going to do something kind of cool like that. So there's all these different things that you can do with this. And we can even do reflections if we want, which can really start to make things look pretty crazy depending on how we're doing it. So play with some of these things, see what happens, try it out. It's pretty cool. Now something to be aware of, all of those copies are linked to my original. They are actually an effect that is modifying this original shape. So I can't go in and move these individually. And if I do transform again, you can run into some problems, because now you are transforming the transform. And this can create some unexpected effects. You can see that we actually now have two copies of my original, and I'm not modifying what I originally created, because this is applying a new effect to the previous, and that might not be your goal. If you want to modify the original effect, you actually have to go over here into Appearance, and in here you can see that original transform effect, and this, by double clicking on that, is how you can manipulate what you had created before. So just be careful with that.